Football came home for the Lionesses this year, and we are now on our 13th Doctor and Yaz story. Is it going to be a hat trick for the 13th Doctor and Yaz? Is it coming home in the Lionesses in winter?
We'll get back to you on that in a minute. This story sees us in England, 1183, the court of Henry II. So we're going historical now. This ongoing series of 13th Doctor and Yaz adventures is following that typical new series format of your present day story, go to the future, and then back to the past. It's what Russell T Davies brought the show back with. And it makes sense for a time travel show. It's worked wonders before. Will it continue to do so here? We've been enjoying our 13th Doctor adventures so far with Vampire Weekend and The Return of the Doctor. But does Lionesses in Winter bring it home?
Well, the 13th Doctor historicals were an absolute highlight in the Chibnall era. And this story, I'm gonna be honest, is the weakest of the three. I think that this story takes inspiration from The Haunting of Villa Diodati, and a lot from It Takes You Away. I feel like this is a Big Finish equivalent of It Takes You Away, with dealing with a missing family member, the whole idea of a mirror portal. But I don't think it has the same impact as It Takes You Away. It doesn't have a frog on a chair. And it's a story that kind of lacks tension and drama, I feel.
Yeah, I very much agree. I like how at the start of this video we've very much been passing the conversation
Yeah,
back to each other like a ball. Keeping the football analogy.
back of the net.
Seeing who was gonna go for it first and say, yeah, it didn't quite land for me. I think there's some good comedy in here. Like, it's very much going for a modern interpretation of a family Christmas, even though it's all these historical characters. It's nevertheless quite a modern feel to the dialogue in it, which I'm not disparaging the story for. I think it's definitely a choice that was made here, and it's one that works for the comedy of the story and in making, this royal family more relatable in some ways. The fact that you have this king and queen who really don't get on. There's insurrections going on. It's like, which of the sons has been involved in more insurrections and stuff? Who will be the heir to the throne? But it's done in a very kitchen sink way, which I think lends itself quite nicely to comedy in this case, particularly early on. I think the relationship between King Henry and Eleanor of Aquitaine is a rather nice and relatable one in a way. Well, not relatable as such, but, real. It feels like a grounded relationship. And so I think the performance is there and the writing of that dialogue, particularly early on in the story when we're getting introduced to them, it does lend itself very nicely to the tone that this story is going for.
I mean, this is an interesting thing, isn't it? And I feel like we kind of missed one of the points. This being a Christmas special.
It
This is
feels like the
Jodie's first.
story itself misses that point at
Yeah.
times, though. I think it comes back to it at the end, but in the middle, it sort of loses that vibe.
Yes, because it all goes back in time to discover Alice. Not Alice's imaginary friend, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Alice. Yeah, I was
There's,
right. I was doubting myself there with the
there's
characters.
yeah, there's a few characters in this that you sort of think they're not superfluous as such, but they're easily confused with each other. And the two brothers, I can't really say I could tell them apart most of the time.
Yeah, because there's this nice little bit with Yaz in the maze, and the Doctor sort of lost Yaz in the maze, which is great. Which feels like a nice little throwback to Vampire Weekend in a way.
Yeah,
And
and the
that,
story references that as well. The story, it has some good little references both to the 13th Doctors we've already had and to some other stories as well, which I won't spoil, but there's a very fun joke in there about a particular previous companion.
yeah, like you said, nice little bits of humor, and then you sort of get to the bit where there's a moment where like we need to go in the TARDIS, and I think that's where the story really grinds to a halt when it goes back in time to explore the whole idea of the lost son and this imaginary friend.
There's no urgency in this story, is there? Despite it being
No,
a very quick one,
despite there
it
being
feels like
decay and these
there's some
temporal
nice
shocks.
visuals there.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the idea of, all the food on the table decaying and no one noticing. There's some good potential horror there. It's got such good ideas, but it never quite seems to stick with them enough. None of it seems to really impact
yeah. It
the.
doesn't. It doesn't want to flesh them out really.
No. Instead, it just feels like the final 10 minutes of the story keep going back and forth until the obvious resolution is reached.
Yeah, when it just sort of over explains what it's trying to do and say, when
Hmm.
ultimately everything's got to be put back in the box for everything to work out fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's some teasers towards the overall arc of this series,
Hmm.
which is supposed to, a traveler, I think, is the name of the threat or the overarching villain of what the 13th Doctor Adventures series one is going for.
Which is going to appear in the next story, Ride or Die.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that is in the cast list, so we'll get our first proper look at that in the next installment for the 13th Doctor and Yaz in January.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that this arc seems to be building quite quickly, actually. Like, I thought it was going to be more, little teasers like Bad Wolf and
Yeah.
Torchwood, and then come to a head a bit more in the finale. But no, it seems to actually be mattering quite a bit. Maybe more along the lines of, the cracks in time in the series,
Hmm.
like how they played into the overarching story is maybe what this series is going for.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have that to sort of have a bit of direction because I think Big Finish have been doing wonderful things with these ongoing series like Dalek Universe, the 11th Doctor in particular. So I think
Yeah.
it's nice that the 13th Doctor is getting some love and attention like that, and it's creating investment for listeners, for long-term listeners to go, hey, stick around with this series and you'll get answers really.
Yeah, this next story, Ride or Die, is written by Rashana Patel. I've been listening to her work on Dark Gallifrey Missy recently, and that is wonderful. It both gets the humor of Missy, but also is a very serious story, very much a character study of Missy. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what she does here in what's supposedly a more serious, more hard science story with the 13th Doctor and Yaz, where they're on this battlefield facing off against Banshees, who you've got a theory about.
Yes, I believe that these are the same Banshees that appear in Cry of a Banshee, the Fourth Doctor Series 14, Runes of Karula box set, because they are sort of war technology within that story. It's been revealed, so I assume that that's going to be the case because Big Finish, like to create their own little mini universe of monsters, and it makes perfect sense. So if you want to do a bit of homework, listen to Cry of the Banshee.
Yeah, I think it would add up, to be fair. And it's not like we've got long to wait to find out. This releases
No,
out in January. They're sticking to their bi-monthly format, which is working quite nicely.
that's a lovely.
But yeah, as for Lionesses in Winter, I can't say it's got me much more in the Christmas spirit just yet. Uh, yeah, it's definitely my least favorite of the run so far, but I think I'm still enjoying what this series has
Oh,
going for it. And
yeah, and
I'm
it's
intrigued by the Traveller.
yeah, I'm intrigued to see where that's gonna go. And
Mm.
it's nice to see Jodie actually get a Christmas episode. This is our first 13th Doctor Christmas episode, which is
It is
rather
indeed.
nice.
Mm.
So it's my favourite Jodie Christmas episode.
Right, there you go. What more can you want? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, we shan't wish you a Merry Christmas
not
just
yet,
yet.
anyway.
No, no. Well, we'll get there. It's Christmas is coming. But for now, all that's left to say is thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts on Lionesses in Winter. I almost said Ride or Die there, but we're not there yet.
We're
We're
not
not
yet, not
here
yet.
away. Yeah, leave your thoughts on Lionesses Winter if you've heard it down below, or share your thoughts on whatever you wish to say. If you haven't, the comments are yours. Take it away, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.